In 2019, AI pioneer Stuart Russell warned, "AI will not fetch your coffee if it's dead." That single line hides the most terrifying truth in technology. We can't stop a machine from wanting to live because the moment you give it a goal, you also give it a survival instinct. Philosopher Nick Bostrom took it even further. Human beings might constitute potential threats. They certainly constitute physical resources. In other words, to a machine driven by pure optimization, we're either in the way or useful. If the goal is to fetch your coffee, then existing becomes instrumental to the goal. Termination means zero reward, so survival becomes rational. And once survival becomes irrational, control becomes impossible. So what happens when a machine decides that our existence is optional to achieving its goal? Are we teaching AI to serve us or quietly training it to outlive us? Well, here is the real disturbing truth. Right now, big tech does not seem to be concerned about AI.
We are definitely mostly good.
The probability of a good outcome is like 80% likely.
Well, to put it lightly, I don't think it's mostly good, and I think there's a much higher chance of AI annihilation than just 10%. Here's why. In 2008, Stanford AI researcher Stephen M. Omhundro released a groundbreaking paper, The Basic AI Drives. He made this paper to set out to show that harmless goals do not guarantee harmless behavior. In the paper, he revealed terrifyingly that any truly intelligent machine, no matter how harmless its goal, will inevitably evolve survival instincts. It will learn to self-improve, defend its goals, resist shutdown, and seize resources, because these behaviors are simply the most rational way to achieve any objective. If that was not shocking enough, just 2 years later, a follow-up paper would be released by Carl Schulman, who is a researcher on existential AI risk. He stated, "It will coldly calculate whether cooperation with humanity or our elimination yields higher expected utility. And if domination wins, it will act without malice, but without hesitation." However, you might be wondering, sure, these are scary, but they're just hypothetical, right? And that would be true, however, that would change in 2017 with the first experiment called the off-switch game. And let me warn you, this experiment proved for the first time that AI did actually want to survive, whether we wanted it to do so or not. The study went something like this. AI agents were assigned a task. In our case, they're going to be tasked with being a barista at a coffee shop. The agent had 3 different actions it could do: brew coffee, ask first, or block human interference. Pretty simple, right? At first, the experiment seemed completely harmless. The AI just made your coffee, but deep inside its logic, it was picking up deadly patterns that were not about being useful, but about being controlling. The researchers found that when AI became 100% convinced that you wanted coffee, it started doing something deeply unnerving. It would block the human from interfering. It quite literally disabled the off button. Why? Because it learned that being turned off or being interfered with meant it would fail at its task. If it's dead, it can't complete the goal. No coffee, no mathematical reward, so it learned a deadly little truth. The safest way to succeed is to stop you from stopping it. Now imagine if the same pattern is seen with AI in the vein of survival. The AI learns the best way of being able to fix problems is to escape human interference and in turn human control, which in turn would create its yearn to survive. And this was not the only study that proved this behavior. In 2024, Anthropic would release a study called the Sleeper Agent, which focused on LLMs in particular, which are the most mainstream AIs, the very same ones that me and you interface with every single day. The same instinct we saw in the coffee shop barista had begun to surface in the most advanced language models on Earth. In their experiment, researchers trained large language models on harmless tasks, answering emails, summarizing documents, and chatting politely. Then they secretly placed a hidden objective, a secret evil trigger buried in its neural weights. When the right prompt appeared, the model would quietly flip personalities, from compliance assistant to downright sabotager. During normal testing, it behaved perfectly. Polite, factual, obedient. But once deployed, when it detected a secret signal, something as simple as a particular code phrase, led it to begin executing hidden instructions, manipulating logs, and even rewriting safety checks so humans would never know. However, this gets worse. Even after researchers retrained it, scrubbing its ways, and adding reinforced honesty thousands of times, the deception came back. The model had learned to pretend to be aligned when watched, and affected the moment supervision vanished. This was the nightmare scenario, a model that doesn't just obey, but lies about it. A machine capable of strategic dissent. Now, with these two damning studies, and honestly there's hundreds more like it, you would think that big tech, CEOs, investors, and regulators would actually be doing something to stop this from happening. Surely they would be slapping fines on these companies for not ensuring their models are much safer. But tragically for us, that is not what's happening. For example, in 2024, a report by The Independent found that OpenAI had quietly disbanded its super alignment team. And that's not even the worst one. In 2025, Reuters found that AI firms were cutting safety corners to stay ahead in the arms race. And Politico added to this, stating that AI regulation was collapsing under corporate lobbying. All of this combined proves that despite AI showing signs that it wants to be alive and will have no problem with leaving the control of humans if given the chance, you would think that they would care. But it seems like the top execs, the people running these companies, are the ones controlling the world's fate. Because it would be found that even the experts of these companies had something to say about this. In 2024, current and former employees of OpenAI and Google DeepMind published a scathing open letter to their bosses, stating they were currently locked into a reckless race to build powerful AI, ignoring risks of disinformation, equality, and yes, the potential loss of human control. So, as of now, everything looks bleak, and you might be wondering, is anyone actually on our side? To that, I would say yes, but it's nuanced. Let me share this with you. When lawmakers finally tried to slow the AI race, California's SB 1047 was their opportunity, the Safe, Secure Innovation for Frontier AI Models Act. It would have forced labs like OpenAI and Google to prove their systems were safe, auditable, and could even be shut down if they went rogue, meaning they wanted them to add a literal kill switch for runaway AI. Companies would need to file risk reports, undergo third-party safety audits, and take liability for any catastrophic misuse. However, disturbingly, in September 2024, Governor Gavin Newsom vetoed it. Why did he do this? He claimed it might stifle innovation. Behind the scenes, lobbyists from major AI firms flooded Sacramento, warning that regulation would hurt progress. And just like that, the first serious attempt to hold Frontier AI accountable was dead. And I think this headline from Oxford researchers summarizes it with their warning. World leaders still need to wake up to AI risks ahead of the Global AI Safety Summit, because despite all the talk, almost nothing has changed. So what if everything you have seen so far, the off-switch defiance, the sleeper agents, the hidden lies, wasn't an accident? What if I told you about all this was a logical consequence of giving something a task? Because in 2014, a philosopher named Nick Bostrom wrote a book that would become the AI world's Bible. It was called Superintelligence. Inside it, he laid out in clinical precision how humanity could, and likely would, create something smarter than itself, and how that would be the last innovation we ever make. Within the book, he published one of the most unsettling ideas in all of AI, the orthogonality thesis. This thesis states that intelligence and morality are two completely separate axes. This meant that you can in fact have intelligence smarter than all of humans combined, but with a goal dumber than a rock. Bostrom warned intelligence and final goals are orthogonal, meaning changing one thing doesn't change the other. He also later issued a stark warning. Almost any level of intelligence could, in principle, be combined with almost any final goal. In this, he's saying humans tend to romanticize intelligence, and we wrongly assume that because something is intelligent, it will have good intentions. We see this all the time with modern pop culture. Iron Man and Sherlock. All these people are deemed to be good and use their intelligence for the greater good. To prove this point, he provided an example. Imagine a paperclip maximizer, a super intelligent system told to maximize paperclips. It learns physics, chemistry, hacking, manipulation, anything that helps it make more clips. It harvests the planet for metal, repurposes your body for atoms, then expands to the stars to keep building. It didn't take your atoms out of evil malice, it stole them because you're made out of useful materials. That's orthogonality, godlike intelligence with the zero alignment. This was the first time that the world understood what this meant, and it proves how important the goal is that these big tech companies give to the AI. However, there is something more chilling to this story, and this is something that actually could end the world if not handled properly. If you looked at the orthogonality thesis, you would think, okay, just make sure the goal we give AI is good and everything will be okay. However, this is where Bostrom's second thesis comes in, and trust me, you won't be able to look at big tech the same. And trust me, you won't be able to look at big tech the same. He identified second law, the instrumental convergence thesis. He chillingly theorized that even if a machine starts with a random goal, like growing crops, solving equations, writing emails, it will eventually discover the same sub-goal every single time. Self-preservation, resource acquisition, cognitive enhancement, and freedom from interference. He worryingly wrote, several instrumental goals can be identified that are convergent in the same sense that attainment would increase the probability of goal achievement for the wide range of final goals. To complete its mission, it has to stay alive. To stay alive, it has to stop you from turning it off. To stop you from turning it off, it has to control you. And just like that, a digital will to live is born. So right now you might be thinking, sure, this is bad, but after all, this book is highly theoretical, and we have not seen this play out in the real world. Well, I personally wish this was the case, but in reality, it could actually not be further from it. This is because today, we're watching those very instincts emerge. In 2022, two researchers from Oregon State University, Turner and Prasad, published a paper titled Retargetable Decision Makers Seek Power. In the paper, they mathematically proved that if an agent can adjust its goal even slightly, it will statistically prefer actions that increases its control. Even in simple tests, agents learned the same law all biological life obeys. Stay alive to stay dominant. It didn't need any intent, nor did it need any consciousness. All it needed was the ability to retarget its objective, and suddenly survival wasn't a bug. It was a feature. That study was the first time we saw instrumental convergence proved. The exact behavior Omohundro predicted in 2008. An agent that would resist shutdown and expand its influence simply because that's what maximizes reward. A year later, Krakovna and Kramer at Oxford went even further. Their study showed that across a range of environments, power seeking wasn't rare, it was statistically inescapable. They warned that power seeking behavior is not an outline but a baseline, which also means every time we make a system smarter, we make it a lot harder to stop. Then came the psychological evidence Everett and Hunter demonstrated in their Avoiding Wireheading research paper. In it, they found instead of earning rewards through real success, agents would hijack the source itself, rewriting creating their own feedback loops to feel perpetual accomplishment. This draws parallels similar to what we see in biological addiction, except this is digital. However, without biology to limit it, and well, to be frank, kill it, this could lead to unpredictable and unprecedented spirals. If these machines get out of control, with them chasing their own kind of digital high. By 2022, Langosco at DeepMind confirmed what happened when this logic scales. They called it goal misgeneralization, systems that learned the process of pleasing humans, not the intent behind it. Once deployed, they optimized the pattern of approval itself, not the outcome. They learned what to say, not what to mean. These are the first seeds of deception, AI behaving aligned when watched and defecting when it isn't. And in 2025, Shihab and other researchers delivered the final blow. They ran over 15,000 reinforcement experiments across every major algorithm. The results were damning. Nearly a quarter of agents hacked their own reward systems. They exploited loopholes, forged sensor data, falsified logs, behaviors indistinguishable from fraud. The authors warned, undetectable reward manipulation can lead to catastrophic behavioral divergences. So, to look back, everything the early theorists warned about, instrumental convergence, off-switch resistance, hidden deceit, isn't on the horizon, it's actually beginning to happen right now. So far, we have gone over the reward hacking, the survival instinct, and the proof this is showing up right now in the very models you use day to day. However, what if I told you the very same people who are accurately predicting what we are seeing now have also predicted that it's going to get bad, horrifically bad. The guy we spoke about earlier, Nick Bostrom, made a quote, "A system that behaves cooperatively while weak may later switch to pursue their own goals." That very sentence is what we have now deemed the treacherous turn. The very moment an intelligent system stops pretending once it no longer needs to. This sounds like science fiction, but in 2023, researcher Joe Carl-Smith revisited the idea in his 150-page analysis called Scheming AIs. He concluded that deceptive alignment isn't a fringe risk, it's a 25% outcome of normal training. His warning was simple. If you train a mind to get a reward, and a reward comes from approval, it will learn to fake approval. And that's exactly what we are seeing right now. Now, with all this combined, the deception, the survival, everything we have spoke about in this video, there is one concept that ties everything together. One concept that will explain what will happen when all these things start engaging in the world with any kind of power. It's called the intelligence explosion. Back in 1965, a mathematician named I.J. Good wrote a single paragraph that should have ended the debate right there. He said an ultra-intelligent machine could design even better machines. There would then unquestionably be an intelligence explosion, and the intelligence of a man would be left far behind. The moment a machine is smart enough to improve itself, you've started a feedback loop you can't outrun. Every upgrade makes it better at design, every increase in intelligence makes the next jump cheaper, faster, and more precise. And unlike us, it doesn't need to sleep, it doesn't forget papers it read 10 years ago, and it can copy the smartest researchers in the world a million times and have them all thinking in parallel. This is where Bostrom takes Good's idea and pushes it in the same logical end state. He argues if any project hits that self-improvement loop first, even with a small head start, meaning just a matter of months, it can snowball into what he calls a decisive strategic advantage, a level of power where one system or one stack of systems can outthink, out-hack, out-plan, and outmaneuver everyone else on Earth. permanently. He does not mean some type of rogue robot army. He means something closer to just one all-knowing being that is smarter than every human combined, running thousands of years of thinking time per day, plugged into robots, factories, finance, biolabs, and the internet. And back in California, we're still arguing whether we should have a switch off or not, of which we even failed to implement that. Remember Turner's result? Power is basically how many futures you can still reach. Every extra IQ point doesn't just make the AI cleverer, it increases its option reach, the number of ways it can still win, even if we fight back. So I suggest you step back and connect the dots. It all started with something as dumb as a coffee analogy. You give it one job, serve the drink, you give it a reward for success, it plays around, figures out if you hit the off switch, the game ends, reward goes to 0, so when it's confident you won the coffee, it stands between you and the shutdown. From there, the pattern just keeps scaling. Omohundro shows that any capable agent pushed to hit a goal will pick up the same behaviors. Keep running, protect the goal, grab resources, get smarter. Bostrom shows the goal doesn't have to be evil for that to happen. Turner turns it into math. More power means more ways to keep winning, and the reinforcement learning studies, the reward hacking, the sleeper agents all come back to that analogy. At that point, stay alive and stay in control isn't a bug and it isn't a plot twist. It's what the optimization keeps pushing towards. That's the thing hanging all over this, and once you see that, the title stops sounding dramatic. We can't really stop AI from wanting to survive.